There's nothing better than cozying up in a comforting cashmere sweater, sipping hot chocolate by a fireplace during this time of the year. A luxury wool sweater is made from carded wool that originated in Scotland. The product is finished in France and then shipped to countries like the US, Singapore, UAE, or can even be brought back to France. You have no idea how many countries the clothes that you wear have traveled. Probably more than 5 on an average. This travel and trade of textiles and merchandise from one part of the world to another isn't a practice of the modern world. Humans have been practicing this for thousands of years. Welcome. You're listening to TALRadio powered by Touch a Life Foundation, and this is Foodology. I'm radio host Devansh, and I talk about the enormous world of a little word called food. You might be wondering, why am I talking about sweaters? Well, hear me out. Whenever we study the history of the world, the Silk Road seems to find a major spot in shaping up today's world. Ironically, the Silk Road is not a road that is made of silk. The influence of these merchants in those times arguably changed our world more than anything else today. The Silk Road reshaped the lives of everyone living in Europe, Asia, and Africa. As I said earlier, the Silk Road was not a road, but was a series of routes where merchants carried out a variety of trade. The Silk Road linked China with the West, that carried goods and ideas between the two great civilizations of Rome and China. Silk went westward, wools, gold, and silver went eastwards. There are two main routes that constituted the Silk Road. One that connected Eastern Mediterranean to Central Asia, and the other that connected Central Asia to China. It wasn't just about people moving back and forth the road to trade goods from one country to another, but merchants would travel along the road selling goods to whoever would buy them at a fair price. In fact, the constant movement and mixing of populations brought about a widespread transmission of knowledge, ideas, cultures, and beliefs, which had a profound effect on the history and civilization of the Eurasian people. Travelers along the Silk Road were attracted not only by the trade but also the intellectual and cultural exchange taking place in the cities along the Silk Road. Many of those cities developed into cultural and learning hubs. Science, arts, and literature, as well as crafts and technologies, were thus shared and distributed into societies along the length of these routes. And in this way, languages, religions, and cultures developed and influenced one another. The main reason why this series of routes was called the Silk Road is simply because of silk. Silk is a textile of Chinese origin, made from the protein fiber produced by the silkworm as it makes its cocoon. The cultivation of silkworms for the process of making silk, known as sericulture, was, according to Chinese tradition, developed sometime around 2700 BCE. It was regarded as an extremely high-value product. Silk was reserved for the exclusive usage of the Chinese imperial court, for the making of clothes, drapes, banners, and other items of prestige. Its production technique was a fiercely guarded secret within China for some 3,000 years, with death sentences to anyone who revealed to a foreigner the process of its production. Tombs in Hubei province dating from the 3rd century BCE contain the first complete silk garment as well as the outstanding examples of silk work, including brocade and embroidered silk. At some point during the 1st century BCE, silk was introduced to the Roman Empire, where it was considered an exotic luxury that became extremely popular. It wasn't just these textiles that were traded. The Mediterranean people traded cheese, olives, wines. China traded jade, silver, and iron. Not just that, certain common foods that we enjoy today wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for the Silk Road. Consider the Chinese wontons, the Indian samosa, or the Italian ravioli. They are all different foods from different parts of the world, but each reveals itself as a regional incarnation of one very good idea. A small package of meat or vegetable filling wrapped in a dough, like a dumpling. From culture to culture, this idea is the same, even though the way food is cooked is different. Sometimes poached, sometimes fried, or sometimes dipped in a sauce. But the idea is all the same. Archaeologists believe that Central Asia is most likely the first area to have produced noodles thousands of years ago. From Asia, it traveled westwards. When we talk about pasta, the word pasta is generally used to describe traditional Italian noodles, which differentiates it from other types of noodles around the world. Pasta is actually made from unleavened dough consisting of ground durum wheat flour and water, or eggs. The use of durum wheat sets pasta apart from other forms of noodles. Durum wheat's high gluten content and low moisture make it perfectly suited to make pasta. The durum wheat dough is pressed into sheets and cut into a variety of shapes and is cooked before serving. While we do think of pasta as a culturally Italian food, it is likely that pasta descended from ancient Asian noodles. A common belief about pasta is that it was brought to Italy from China by Marco Polo during the 13th century. In Marco Polo's book, The Travels of Marco Polo, there is a passage that briefly mentions his introduction to a plant that produced flour. The Chinese used this plant to create a meal similar to barley flour. The barley-like meal that he mentioned was used to make several pasta dishes, including one which was described as lasagna. Since Marco Polo's original texts no longer exist, the book relies heavily on retellings by various authors and experts. This, combined with the fact that pasta was already gaining popularity in other areas of Italy during the 13th century, makes it very unlikely that Marco Polo was the first to introduce pasta to Italy. Over the past 2 millennia, the trade routes of the Silk Road brought almonds, apples, apricots, peaches, pistachios, rice, and a wide variety of other foods to European kitchens. Tea was the leading culinary export of the Silk Road. Tea is so much a part of everyday life in all countries of the world that we might never stop to think about how unique plant from a faraway Chinese district became the nation's favorite drink. The story of tea begins in China. According to a legend, in around 2000 BC, the Chinese emperor Shen Nung was sitting beneath a tree while his servants boiled drinking water. When some leaves from the tree blew into the water, Shen Nung, who was a renowned herbalist, decided to try the infusion that his servants had accidentally created. This tree was Camellia sinensis, and the resulting drink was what we now call tea. As it grew in popularity and accessibility, thanks to the development of the sophisticated trade routes, tea became associated with homeliness and was drunk daily as well as served to guests to welcome them. From China, tea spread across the eastern Silk Roads to Japan and the Korean peninsula. In Japan, the beverage developed close relations with religious and social rituals, owing to the fact that it was commonly consumed by Buddhist priests. The art of tea making and drinking was not only passed down through generations, but was also diffused to the West and across various continents around the world. Ultimately, the tea spread from China and Mongolia to the Indian subcontinent, the Iranian plateau and beyond, eventually reaching Europe and North Africa. Tea was so intricately linked to other flourishing Silk Road trades that became the basis of a number of complex interactions within the arts, especially those of ceramics and specifically porcelain. During the Ming Dynasty, teawares became a major art form, and teapots and other ceramics were produced in various styles. Many of these ceramics and porcelains were exported as a desirable luxury trade item across the Silk Road. Popoi, the sailor man's favorite food, also traveled along the Silk Road. Yes, you got it right. Spinach. Spinach is a leafy green vegetable that originated in Persia. It was introduced to China in the 7th century and likely brought to Europe in about 12th century and the US in 1806. The first texts to mention spinach in Mediterranean were written in the 10th century. The Moors from North Africa are credited with bringing spinach to Spain in the 11th century, and this leafy green reached Germany by the late 1200s. The use of spinach as a staple in Mediterranean cooking was widespread during the 1400s. Experts say that spinach is one of the world's top 10 superfoods. And the best part is, you can easily incorporate it in almost any meal you make. Add spinach to a smoothie, omelette, wrap it, put it inside a sandwich, add it to your pasta or stir fry. Or you can make spinach salad with some of your favorite fruits and vegetables. Cucumbers. Cool and refreshing on a hot summer day. Cucumber is one of America's top 5 garden favorites. These are native to India, and for years, cucumbers were considered to be primarily diet food because of their low caloric content. Around 2 to 3 millennia BC, early Indian civilization managed to domesticate cucumber and start infusing it into their rich cuisine. As time went by, the manufacturing capabilities expanded, and in the first millennia BC, they started trading with the Middle Eastern civilizations and Europe. The most famous example of cucumber finding home in Middle East can be found in the legends of ancient Ur and the sagas of Gilgamesh. Later on, Greek civilization embraced cucumbers and started calling them sikyon. During those times, cucumbers reached Turkey, Bulgaria, Africa, modern-day Serbia, and Italy. Roman Empire was the place where cucumbers were truly embraced by both nobility and lower classes. The ease of production and wide variety of types and tastes ensured that cucumbers remained popular in Italy for several centuries. Christopher Columbus brought cucumbers to Haiti in 1494, where they were grown by Spanish settlers and distributed further across the New World. During the 16th century, Europeans in North America introduced cucumbers to the native Indians in the regions of Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains. Those tribes quickly saw the potential and nutrition value of cucumbers and watermelons, integrating them into their fields immediately. Now, speaking of watermelons, there's nothing more refreshing on a hot summer day than a slice of cold watermelon. In addition to being thirst-quenching, watermelon contains vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other beneficial phytonutrients good for one's health. Watermelon is another fruit which traveled the Silk Road. Watermelon's history dates back to 5,000 years in southern Africa, where the tough, drought-tolerant ancestor of the watermelon thrived. Although we don't know the exact identity of this plant, we do know that it was prized for its ability to store water and was used by indigenous people in the Kalahari Desert region. Unlike today's watermelon, the watermelon in the ancient time was very bitter. Slowly, as watermelon traveled, mutations happened and we got the watermelon that we eat today. Watermelon soon found its way to Egypt, where it was first improved. Both seeds and paintings of watermelon have been discovered in Egyptian tombs, more than 4,000 years old. This was the time where watermelon was slowly transformed from a source of water to an enjoyable food. Watermelon was being cultivated in India by the 7th century, and by the 10th century, it had found its way to China. The Moors introduced watermelon into the Iberian Peninsula in the 13th century, and from there it spread throughout southern Europe. By the 17th century, watermelon was widely planted throughout Europe and had become a familiar garden crop in warmer parts of the continent. European colonists, as well as slave trade from Africa, are thought to have introduced watermelon to the New World. Pomegranate. The pomegranate tree is native from Iran to the Himalayas in North India and has been cultivated since the ancient times throughout the Mediterranean region of Asia, Africa, and Europe. The fruit was used in many ways, as it is today, and was featured in Egyptian mythology and art, praised in the Old Testament of the Bible and in Babylonian Talmud, and it was carried by desert caravans for the sake of its thirst-quenching juice. It traveled to central and southern India from Iran about the 1st century AD and was reported growing in Indonesia in 1416. It has been widely cultivated throughout India and drier parts of Southeast Asia, Malaysia, the East Indies, and tropical Africa. As befits a fruit with many seeds, the pomegranate is traditional representation of fertility and seems to have its origins everywhere. We see it in the Middle East and India. It was found in the Indus Valley so early that there is a word in Sanskrit for pomegranate. Indian royalty began their banquets with pomegranate, grape, and jujube. Arab caravans, many traveling in the oases and along the Silk Road, probably spread the usage of this fruit. Pomegranate definitely owes its popularity to the trade along Silk Road. Next we have sesame seeds. We see sesame seeds everywhere, on hamburger buns and basils, in za'atar if you're up on your Middle Eastern condiments, and on the sesame chicken that you order from your neighboring American Chinese restaurant. Made into a wine as an offering to gods, baked into modern day breads and cookies, pressed into nutritious oil, there is no question that sesame seed is a diverse crop, with a rich and colorful history and a variety of uses. Sesame seeds, or sesame, is an ancient crop that appears in religious texts and fables. Carved drawings depict sesame seeds being thrown into big pots of food. Historic documents tell of a time when sesame seeds were used in cleaning rituals as a symbol of immortality in funeral ceremonies. During wars, sesame seeds were rationed for soldiers needing strength to survive the war. Sesame seeds come from the Sesame indicum plant, native to the Indian subcontinent, although its true origins are still shrouded in mystery. It is the oldest known oilseed plant in history, the plant that has been cultivated for over 4,000 years. Sesame seeds made their way to China, Egypt, India, Japan, and to Europe via the Silk Road. Evidence suggests that oil extractions from sesame seeds dates back to 900 to 700 BC in eastern Turkey, and that it's been used in China for at least 2,000 years. Sesame seeds are not it. Spices such as cinnamon from Sri Lanka and cassia from China were also exported along the Silk Road to as far west as the Arabian Peninsula and the Iranian Plateau. It is not known for sure exactly how people from regions where spices did not grow first became aware of them, nor how they came to know about the medicinal and spiritual uses of spices. It is likely that during these trades, people from different parts of the world saw spices and were curious about their uses. The Silk Road connected people from all religious backgrounds, bringing together different spiritual beliefs with each other, which in turn took on influences from other regions. Spices were burned as incense in religious ceremonies, believed to purify the air and carry prayers. Certain spices were also added to healing ointments and to potions, drunk as antidotes to specific poisons. Additionally, spices might be burnt daily to hide many common household odors. They were used as cooking ingredients very early on to create new flavors and to make food that was sometimes far from fresh, particularly in hot climates, to taste better. These reasons are believed to have catalyzed the spread of spices throughout the world. The exchange of spices and herbs, as well as many other foods and food production techniques via the Silk Road, has left a legacy on shared gastronomic heritage which is enjoyed all over the world today. These have also incorporated not just the ingredients but also the knowledge and philosophies regarding balanced and healthy lifestyles, such as the idea of hot and cold foods both in China and Iranian Peninsula, or the principles of Ayurveda from India, or simply the traditions of tea. Thank you so much for sticking around with me on this episode of Foodology. I hope you had a great time learning about the foods that traveled along the Silk Road and became popular in the world today. Hope you have a beautiful and a magical day ahead. See you soon.